Hi everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Knit Front and Back podcast. My name is George, I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Berlin in Germany, though I'm originally from the UK. And I have spent the last year frantically knitting. It's been a real lockdown hobby for me, and I've really enjoyed a lot of knitting podcasts here on YouTube, so I thought I would share a little bit about what I've been making. So I'm kind of new to this whole knitting thing. Like I said, I started in the last year, but I've got very into being quite adventurous and trying some new things. So I thought it would be fun to share a little bit about what I've been making and what I'm planning to make in the future. So I'll start off in what I believe is correct podcast style with talking about what I'm wearing. So this is the Rocket Tee by Tanis Lavallee. It was really fun to make. It's stripes of fingering weight and then stripes of lace weight mohair. So I made this, the dark blue stripes are in Exquisite by West Yorkshire Spinners, which is a mix of wool and silk. And then the mohair is from a very small dyer called Gillian Gladrag, who is from Dorking in the UK, near my parents. So when I went to visit them last, I picked up a skein of this really fun, brightly coloured mohair. I was like, what am I going to do with 50 grams of mohair in like bright rainbow colours? Going to make a t-shirt with it. So I will show you the yarn labels. This is the West Yorkshire Spinners, the blend of 80% wool, 20% silk in the colour Regal, which is this blue here. And then the mohair is in a colourway called You're the One That I Want, and it is a blend of 28% silk and 72% mohair. And it was just one skein of each of these for a whole t-shirt. And yeah, it was really good fun to make. It has this I-cord edging, which I liked. Like picking up the stitches was a kind of a nightmare, obviously, but I really like the effect of it. And mohair t-shirt is a slightly odd garment because it's a little too warm for summer, but it's short sleeved, it's not really winter, but it's been quite nice for this sort of transitional autumn period. So yeah, I've been getting quite a lot of wear out of this one. And the other thing I'm wearing is a very simple 1x1 ribbed hat made out of this gorgeous yarn I picked up last time I was in London by a small dyer called the Wool Barn. And this is a blend of 56% extra fine superwash merino and 44% kid mohair. So it's like a single merino with a bit of mohair, and it is lovely. Really liked it a lot. I have a little bit of the yarn left over. You can see it's all like different shades of just this dark grey colour, and the colourway name is Charcoal, and I think it's just gorgeous. So I made myself a little simple slouchy hat out of that. It is very cosy and has been keeping me very nice and warm. Really like that a lot. So the main thing I guess I wanted to talk about today was the projects I'm working on at the moment, like my current whips. Because I've generally for the last year been making a lot of socks, so there's some socks going on, but in the last few weeks I've caught sweater fever, right? It's definitely sweater weather. I've definitely got very inspired by seeing everyone on social media knitting loads of great sweaters. So I have two sweaters that I'm working on at the moment, and I will start off with the first one. This is the pattern kept in a bag I made myself, but I'm terrible at sewing, so we're not going to look too closely at that. This is the Wool and Honey pattern by Andrea Mowry, and it is such a fun pattern. This is a yoked sweater, so I'm still working on the yoke, and it's a little big for these needles, but we're going to make do. And it is this gorgeous like honeycomb pattern, which I think is so clever and so fun. And it's worked using extra long slip stitches. It's also garter stitch in the round and fingering weight, so it's going to take a million years, but I'm okay with that. Absolutely loving this. And this yarn is Malibu Sock, which is a yarn I really enjoy working with. Here it is. I've got lots of skeins in the colour Frank Ochre. And it's so nice and soft and lovely. And I did notice the original pattern for Wool and Honey, Andrea's version. It's made with Brooklyn tweed, I think, loft, which is non-superwash and quite sort of rusticy, whereas this version is going to be very like slinky because it's superwash and it's all smooth, so it'll be maybe quite different from the original. But like I say, I really like this yarn, and I've seen some other people using the same yarn on Ravelry, and I really like the look of that, so hopefully it will all work out, even though the yarn is kind of different. Another thing, because it's superwash and because it's quite slinky, and because I am a very loose knitter, I'm using tiny needles. These are size US 1s or European 2.25mm needles. So they're tiny, it's going to take forever. But despite that, I'm actually making like reasonably good progress. I was thinking this was going to take me till like next spring to get done, but actually I'm kind of getting through it faster than I thought. So I'm enjoying that one. Really looking forward to finishing out the yoke and trying it on and seeing how it looks on. So that is the Wool and Honey by Andrea Mowry. And put that away. And the next pattern I'm working on, I saw this on the Sticks and Twine podcast. Eric mentioned this pattern, and it's called Savin by Megan Babin, and it is based on, if you've seen the movie Knives Out, which I love, Chris Evans is in it, and it's very funny watching him be just like an awful human being. Like, it really entertained me. And there's a scene where he's wearing like this jumper, this cabled, cozy, woolen, thick, like New England style jumper, and it, like, I was just so jealous. I was like, I want that jumper. And so Megan came out with a pattern for it, so I was like, amazing, gotta try this. And to be honest, I have not done a lot of cabling before, so this pattern is kind of beyond my skill level, but I thought, what better way to become the kind of person who is good at making complicated cable jumpers than to make a complicated cable jumper. So my progress on this so far, I have 2 sleeves which look like this. I think once they block, the cables are going to spread a bit more like that. So there's one sleeve and there's another sleeve, and I've just started this week on the back. So let me pull this out for you. And it is this very intricate but very lovely cable pattern, which I think is going to be so warm and so fun. Like I say, this is pretty complicated for me. This is like the most complicated thing I've knit for sure, but it's okay. Like, the pattern is well written, it's easy enough to follow along. I think it's going to be all right. I really like the construction of this sweater as well. It is seamed, obviously knit bottom up in pieces, but it is a combination of a raglan and a saddle shoulder. So the shoulder pieces go all the way up the arm and then sit across here like this, so you get a cable running all the way down the sleeve and up to the neckline, which I think is very cool. And I really appreciate the way this pattern is written. It is both very size inclusive. I think there are 10 different size options, and it's also like there's a lot of options for whether you want the more traditionally masculine fit or the more traditionally feminine fit. It's very gender inclusive. Is that a term? I'm making it one. Instead of just having, like I said, a man's version and a women's version, it has options for, like, if you want long sleeves, like I do. I love long sleeves. I love sleeves like down to my knuckles even. So I've done the masculine version for the sleeves, whereas for the body, there's an option for either traditional menswear waist shaping or traditional women's wear straight up and down. And because I have quite wide hips, I'm doing the sort of women's wear version for that. But like I say, I really appreciated that it was presented as, rather than all men will want this style and all women will want this style, it was presented in a way of like, if you want long sleeves, do this. If you want like more tight waist shaping, do that. Very sort of gender open way, which I really appreciated, because I tend to often prefer clothes from the men's section, but I identify as a woman. I just prefer that fit, and I really like having that option. So this is Savin. I'm really enjoying it. Oh, and I should tell you about the yarn I'm using as well. So the yarn I'm using for this, I wanted to find something that was affordable, to be honest, but also kind of maybe more local. And so I found this yarn from a small German company. This is Natur Volga from Seehor and Siebert, they're called. I never heard of them before, but they were a small German company. This is 100% wool, non-superwash. It's Peruvian Highland wool, I think, and it's not scratchy, but it's not super soft. It's more like it's very robust. Feels like it's going to be a really like hard wearing garment, which is exactly what I want. And I love this colour. This is just their light brown. They're all in like natural shades, and I think it's beautiful. So I'm really enjoying this. And like I say, I think it was like $6 or $7 a skein, so like really affordable and local company, and nice sort of robust rustic style yarn, which I'm really enjoying a lot. Really like this one. So those are my two big sweater projects that I'm working on at the moment. I do have a few other bits as well. The next thing is some socks. I love socks, so I'm currently working on a pair of vanilla socks. Just keep going. Isn't this yarn fun? These are just a pair of vanilla socks for me because I love socks. And this yarn is also from Gillian Gladrag, her Holy Fluff sparkle sock base. You can't necessarily tell, but there's a tiny bit of like sparkle in there. Let me show you the tag for this one. Yeah, this is called Boogie Wonderland, if you can see that. And it is 75% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina. And honestly, this is not a colourway I would normally go for. It's like a pale pink and a sort of mint green with like pops of colour throughout it. But I used this sock base before from the same dye and absolutely loved it. So I was like, got to get another one. And actually it's been really fun. I really love the way there's like pops of this like emerald green and this like hot pink. Having a great time with this, honestly. And the pattern is kind of interesting. This is, I'm doing them two at a time, as I often do on my 2mm needles. It's a US size 0. And these heels, they look a bit odd when they're flat, but they fit really well. This is a pattern called Vanilla is the New Black by Anna Fletcher. And it is a variation on the strong heel. Like I say, it looks a bit, it's got like ribbing at the back. It looks a bit confusing when it's on the needles, but I have a completed pair, so I will show you what it looks like when you finish this pattern. Like, this is a finished version. Please excuse if it's a little worn. I've been wearing these socks a lot. But you end up with this heel. You sort of work short rows up here, and then join back into the round and start working this ribbing, and you end up with this, I think, very cool triangle ribbing at the back of the heel. And the fit on these socks is amazing. Like, I often make either short row heels, I like fish lips kiss heels, or I've been doing shadow wrap heels recently as well. And I also like heel flap and gusset. Both of those, they fit me fine. But these fit really well, and I think it's because while a lot of people find heels tight kind of here, and I think when you do a heel flap and gusset you get a bit more space here, with these you get a bit more space a little bit higher up, like just around here, sort of above the foot, around the start of the ankle. There's just maybe half a centimetre of extra fabric, and the fit on these is amazing. So I really like this pattern. Like I say, it's called Vanilla is the New Black, but I'm actually doing the toe-up version, which is called Vanilla Reversed. But it's the same thing. And these socks, if you're wondering, I absolutely love these. This yarn is by a dyer from Austria called Woll Elfa. And this colourway is called Stardust, and it is 71% wool, 25% polyamide, and 5% lurex. So this is also a little bit sparkly. And I was on the Woll Elfa website. She does these beautiful gradient yarns for shawls and stuff, and I was actually ordering some of those. And then I saw this one little lonely leftover skein, the last available of this sparkly sock base, and it was called Stardust. I'm obsessed with space and all things spacey, so I was like, space themed sock yarn, it was meant to be, I've got to have that. And I love these socks. So enjoying that pattern a lot, and yeah, making some more of the same pattern in this other yarn. The only downside to this pattern I've found so far is that I don't know if it's possible to do it 2 at a time, because the way it works is that when you get to the beginning of the heel, you use shadow wrap short rows, and you go all the way along the heel, and then you do a wrap and turn in the first stitch of the instep, and then you go back and you do it in the last stitch of the instep as well, and then you start working the short rows. So I couldn't work out how to do that 2 at a time, so I ended up splitting, and for the heel I just take one off and put it on another needle, work the short rows, and then put them back together. But if you know of a way to do this pattern 2 at a time, please let me know, because I love doing 2 at a time, and I love this heel, and I would really like to find out if there's a way to combine the two. But in the meantime, I will just keep splitting them. Oh, and I should say, this very cute little progress marker is a Team Toe Up progress keeper from the Crazy Sock Lady Co. I love Gay's channel, and she makes really cute little progress keepers and such, and I am indeed Team Toe Up. So those are my socks that I'm working on. And I have one more work in progress to show you, which is a scrappy project, which is always fun. And this is a pattern by Stephen West for a shawl called the Painting Honeycombs. And this is basically just rows of garter in this grey with pops of like every whatever leftovers you got, mini skeins, anything. And once it's blocked, I'm having it pull out into this really cool honeycomb shape that I think is really fun. Yeah, between this and the wool and honey, if you can't tell, I love like geometric shapes. I think it's really enjoyable. So this has been a lot of fun. I feel like, you know, with scrappy projects, you sort of feel like, oh, I ought to make use of what I've got, and I shouldn't be wasteful, and I should like go ahead and make more scrappy projects. But it's easy to get distracted by like the new shiny thing, and like new yarn or a new pattern or what have you. But this has been so much fun. I've just not been able to put this down. I think there's something very satisfying about just like every few rows just grabbing a new colour, and there's a massive mix of things in here as well. There's a lot of leftover sock yarn. Obviously, I love socks, so there's a lot of wool nylon blends, but there are wool silk blends in here. There's pure silk. There's some little bits of mohair held double in all, like, whatever colours you've got, whatever little scraps you've got. I think this is a really fun way to use them up. And so I've just got this big old bag of leftovers and scraps. I feel like if you knit socks, you definitely have a bag like this. Like tons of little 30-gram balls of sock yarn. What am I going to do with those? And yeah, like I say, I think like it's easy to kind of overlook scrappy projects and feel like they're not that special or something, but this has been so much fun. Because like, what's better than like one yarn I love is like 20 yarns that I love. So this has been very fun. Oh, and I should say the grey on this is just very standard, very affordable Lang Yarns Yarval, which is just a 75%, 25% standard sock yarn. So I've got a few skeins of that. And yeah, like I say, this has been a really good fun, and I think once it's blocked out and pulled out, it'll look really cool. And yeah, as you can probably guess from this, my favourite colours are like greys and blues. Definitely a grey and blue sort of girl. So that has been loads of fun. So those are all my works in progress. That's what I'm working through at the moment. I thought I would also, while I'm here, show you a couple of like little things I've finished recently. So something I've done recently is the Jaywalker Socks from Grump Arena. I feel like these are a really classic pattern. Like if you knit socks, you have likely seen this pattern. And it's this kind of interesting zigzag effect where you put stitches like on the bias, more or less. And this is done in this really fun rainbow yarn, which is West Yorkshire Spinners, their signature 4-ply in the colour Rum Paradise. And these were a lot of fun to make. I really like this stitch pattern. I especially like, along here, you just slip the first and last stitch on the instep, and you get this really cool like slip stitch line, which I enjoy a lot, and I think I might incorporate that into future pattern socks that I do, because I like. And like I said, this is a free pattern, which I think is delightful. And the original pattern is cuff down, but I found a variation of it that was toe up, that was provided by Susan H02. Thank you, Susan. That was very helpful. And I normally do my socks with 60 stitches on a 2mm needle. These are 72 stitches because the stitches are on the bias, you need more of them. And these fit me just fine. I've seen some people saying that they had problems with like them not being stretchy enough, but they were fine for me. I was happy with that. The only thing I changed from the original pattern has a heel flap and gusset, but because this yarn is self-striping, I chose to do an afterthought heel instead. So that's just your standard afterthought heel on there. But yeah, very happy with these. They're very jolly. They make me smile. Stripy rainbow socks are just like something I need in my life. So that is those. And I have one more finished object to show you. Let me just go and get that. So, sorry, the sun has decided to come streaming in through the window. So I may be looking a little washed out, but thus is life. like I say, I was working on my Savin sweater and there was a lot of stuff in there I'd never done before. I'd never done a bottom-up sweater, I'd never done a sweater in pieces and seamed it. And I was feeling like I was just a bit unsure about how the whole kind of knitting a sweater flat and then seaming it thing worked. So I decided to do a quick and fun sort of experiment in that, which is, this is the result. This is a very large, very silly, very casual sweater from Rico Essentials. It's their yarn, which is a wool acrylic blend, and their pattern, and it is extra bulky. So it was like, this was a super quick knit. It was like 10 days or something. And it just, I learned like how to seam, and actually the side seams came out all right. Like, not too bad, like not the neatest job in the world, but like good enough. And this was also intarsia, which I'd never done before. So learned intarsia, again, a little bit wobbly in a few places, but that's okay. So this is just a very giant, jolly cloud jumper. And because it's super bulky yarn as well as being quick, it is extremely warm. So that's been nice because it is getting chillier here in Berlin. So having an option that's super warm was good. So that's something else I finished recently. So, let me just have a little bit of coffee. And so I thought I would finish up with a little bit of yarn. So I am not someone who keeps a huge stash of yarn. I definitely understand the appeal of yarn collecting, don't get me wrong. But I tend to buy yarn in order to use it. But I do have a few interesting skeins, which I thought I would show you. The first one, recently I went to Wallen in Berlin, which is a beautiful yarn shop here in Wedding. They used to be based very near to me, which was handy, but they've moved to a newer, bigger location, and it's lovely. And Wallen is a really nice store. Like, the people in there are super nice. I went in there for about this time last year when I knew absolutely nothing about knitting, and they could have been like, who is this girl and why is she an idiot? But they were not. They were super friendly and super encouraging and really helpful. And I will always appreciate that. And so I popped back up there recently and I picked up a couple of skeins of some really nice yarn. The first one is this, which is Keats Garn, who is a local dyer here in Berlin. In fact, I think she actually works in Wallen. So she does a very small number of skeins, and this is her merino sock base, which is 25% nylon and 75% merino, fingering weight. And I just thought this was gorgeous. And you might be looking at this and being like, George, is that not exactly the same as the Malibu Sock that you have? I mean, in that they are both fingering weight, mustard yellow, hand-dyed yarns. Yeah, they are similar, but this one has nylon, so it's more suitable for actual socks. And they're slightly tonally different. Like, the Malibu is a little more reddish, it's got a little more red in there, and the Keats Garn is a little more kind of greyish, leaning slightly greenish. It's a little more sort of understated. But I'm obsessed with this mustard yellow colour right now. I really like it. And this particular colour is called Lindauer, and it's named after Lindauer Strasse, where Wallen has their new store. So I thought that was super cute. And I just thought this was a really lovely, lovely little skein. So really looking forward to probably making socks with this, to be honest. And also while I was there, they had some hedgehog fibres, who are always beautiful. And so I saw this skein and I was like, oh, gotta have it, taking that home. All of these like hot pinks and purples and like different shades of blue. I think it's just lovely. This colourway is called Shiver, and this is 90% merino, 10% nylon, fingering weight once again, the hedgehog fibres sock. So I may make socks with that. I might save that for a shawl or something, not quite sure. I really like that one a lot. And one more skein I have to show you. What is it? This is actually from a different yarn shop here in Berlin called the Fade in Self, which is also a lovely shop and with also very nice and friendly staff. And they have like a nice selection of more affordable yarns. That's where I got the yarn for my Savin sweater. And so yeah, if you're looking for like an affordable option in Berlin, the Fade in Self is lovely. And this skein, I went in there for sweater yarn, but I spotted this little skein of sock yarn and I was like, obviously I have to have that. This is beautiful, right? There's all these shades of kind of teal green and emerald. It's absolutely lovely. The colour is called Malachite, and it is by a dyer called Atelier Franziska Uhl, who is also, I think, based here in Berlin, and does, I think, the guy in the shop was telling me she dyes only in batches of 2. So you only ever get like 2, and then she does new colourways. And I think that's a lot of fun, and I just thought these colours were absolutely stunning. So this is a 25% polyamide, 75% wool mix. So it's not merino, it's regular wool, so it's a little bit tougher, which I quite like for a sock actually. Like obviously merino is very nice as well, but I kind of like socks which are a little more hard wearing. So I think this will be a really nice pair of socks also. So that is everything I wanted to share with you today. This was fun. Like I say, this is my first time recording a YouTube video, so please forgive any dubious lighting issues or whatever. Yeah, like I said, I'm hoping to get a little bit better at this as we go on in future. If you have any tips on how to record better and things like sound and lighting and that sort of thing, please let me know, because that's always gratefully appreciated. It's not really something I know much about. But I'm hoping to check back in again soon with hopefully some progress on all of these things that I've been knitting. And I also, just before I wanted to go, I wanted to give a quick shout out to some other knitting podcasts I've been really enjoying. Like I say, over the last few months I've been watching a lot of knitting podcasts on YouTube because like I don't have that many friends who are into knitting, and so it's really nice to kind of see what other people are doing. And as well as like a lot of the bigger podcasts, which obviously I love as well, I've been watching a lot of like new podcasts, people who are just starting out, when I was kind of thinking about recording this as well. So I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of people. First off, Skeins of Dreams, who makes beautiful sweaters in like beautiful bright colours, and every time she has an episode she's got a gorgeous new sweater. She seems to like, I also like hearing about her mischievous cats, so definitely go check her out, she's lovely. And then another podcast I've been really enjoying is Creia Bear, who's a Scottish lady in London, and she makes really like stylish, minimal, basic jumpers that are like very, very kind of classy. And I've really been enjoying watching her as well. And then there's also Ray Knits, who has just started selling her own hand-dyed yarn, which looks gorgeous and makes a lot of sort of more rustic colour work, kind of traditional sweaters, and I've been really enjoying watching her as well. So they're all great, go and check them out. And like I say, I hope I will be back again soon with an update for you. if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a comment. Would appreciate that. I'm feeling a little bit nervous about this whole YouTube thing, to be honest, but I wanted to, I think, be a bit more active in the knitting world. You know, I've been very passively watching YouTube and making patterns and kind of absorbing stuff on Ravelry and not being very active, but I would like to make some fibre friends and I get to know some more people and share a little bit more about what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm hoping this will be the start of something fun. Anyway, thank you if you have sat through this with me. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found some of this interesting. And I hope to be back again soon. So have a lovely day and catch you again soon. Bye.